Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to be doing a happy leprechaun for St. Patrick's Day. This leprechaun has an orange hat and an orange beard and a rainbow in the back, but we can do it a different way, or we can add our own colors that we like as we are moving through. So the first thing we're going to need today is a pencil with an eraser. We will also need our favorite watercolors, a paintbrush, some water, and I have a black Sharpie, a permanent marker, and I have a few um, other waterproof markers. I have an alcohol marker and also a pink Sharpie for the tongue of our leprechaun. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find the center of our paper. Today I'm using a canvas panel. And so when we're using canvas panels, we want to make sure that we're drawing lightly because the canvas has something called gesso on it, and so it is harder to erase. So we want to use a light hand if we're using a canvas panel or any type of canvas and we're sketching on it first. So first we want to find the center of our piece, and we want to create a circle, which is going to be the nose of our leprechaun. The bigger the circle, the bigger the leprechaun. And I like a bigger leprechaun, so I'm going to do a bigger circle. Think of a small clementine orange or like a cutie orange and make it a little bit smaller. All right, I have my lightly drawn circle here. That's going to be the base of my leprechaun today. That is going to give me all the direction I need on where I'm going to be placing my beard and my hat. All right, so right underneath our circle, we want to write or draw a smile. So a curved line, and we're going to draw it probably from the middle of our nose up and underneath. So it's like a smile right underneath our nose. And if it's not perfectly even, that's okay. So I've got a smile underneath our circle. I'm going to move these paints really quick. All right, so I have a smile underneath my circle here, and I can always erase and add other things to it if I need to make adjustments. So once I have my smile underneath my circle, I'm going to come up and I'm going to make kind of like a hill. So it's going to look almost like an almond. Again, I'm using light lines just in case I need to erase. It's going to look like an almond or maybe like an eye shape. And I'm going to get to that point and erase any of the extra lines I don't love. And you'll see here that when you're using a pencil and eraser on a canvas panel, it's a little bit more challenging than you would first assume. So stick with the paper if you can, and that would be better to start with, unless you have a really good eraser. All right, so now I have a circle, I have an eye shape, and this is my nose. This is the top of my leprechaun. And what I want to do is I want to come over either side of the top of my hill shape that I made, and I'm going to make a C shape on the left side and a backward C shape on the right hand side. And this kind of becomes like two curves. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to kind of make almost like the straight line that meets in the middle. So this is going to be the top part of, or the rim of my hat. Kind of looks kind of silly right now, but it will look better in just a few minutes. So I've got this draped curve bit on top of my hill shape. And then I want to come up on either side and make these lines that kind of go up and out a little bit. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to think about where the top of my hat is going to be. I'm going to want to make sure I don't have it go completely off my canvas or my paper. So I'm going to reach over the top and kind of bring those lines together. So the top kind of hits right about the top of my paper, my canvas. Then I'm going to do a line across and and stop before I get to the middle. I'm going to make a little buckle. I'm going to do a little square that goes above those lines, or a little rectangle, and then another little rectangle. So I have a little buckle here. All right, next we want to go ahead and make our beard. Now our beard is going to come right on the sides of our hat. So it's not going to come right into this corner that we made. It's going to come out a little bit, and it's going to kind of curl down. Okay, so I'm going to pull this out just a little bit. So I'm going to start right on the edge, and it's going to go narrow. So it's going to be more like a triangle going down, but like a curved one. So I'm going to go down and make these curves. And I want to just bring it together somehow at the bottom. And there's no specific way to do this to make it like perfect. I don't believe in perfect. So we've got our beard here. And now we want to create our shoulders. And I think a good idea is to maybe take 3 to 4 fingers from where your nose was, and then that's where you're going to create your hills. And you're going to create a hill shape going down to the side of each side of your paper or your canvas. And now you have your shoulders, you have your beard, your nose, your face, and your hat. Now see, our hat, we can bring this down a little bit more. I'm noticing I have a little bit more space than I want. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this extra line here. And now my hat kind of covers more of that face, so that eye space doesn't really matter. We want this to kind of look like our hat is covering our eyes, and so we're not making eyes. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to the mouth. We're doing kind of a crooked smile to one side. So we want to find the center of our nose, and we want to start there. We're going to do a little point. This will kind of help us stay in line. And then we're going to go ahead and make a smile or a curved line, kind of like this. So we have kind of like that cheeky smile that a leprechaun would have. And then we're going to bring that down narrow, and then back up to that space. I'm going to give that a hill shape on the inside, and that's my mouth. And now I get to start working on my Sharpie. Now you'll notice I have a lot of pencil marks on this. Again, this is because I'm using a canvas panel today instead of a piece of paper, so it's not erasing as well because I have that gesso on there. But I'm not too worried about it, so you can just always erase later. So now you want to go ahead and grab your permanent marker, and you want to make all the lines that you love, you want to make them permanent and keep those. Any of the lines you don't like, we just erase those. So I'm going to start with my nose here. I'm going to bring down my nose a little bit more than I did originally. And that beard line, I'm going to bring it right underneath my nose. So I can adjust things as I'm creating this, so there's no worries. Okay, so let's see. Now we want to go ahead and we want to make our hat. And remember, I moved that line. I moved that line a little bit below where it was before. This was the original line. You can see that mark. But I'm going to go ahead and put my line here. Okay. Now you can think about what color do you want your hat and maybe your shirt, these parts right here, to be. You can think about what color your belt buckle is going to be. All those different elements. Now, as I'm going over my beard, I'm going to go over those curved lines I created, and I'm going to add some detail lines here to kind of make it look more like a beard opposed to just curves. So I'm just going to come in right here and just do some little curves on the inside of each of those little curves I created. Again, going over the mouth. Now this will be the first thing that I actually color in with my permanent marker. I think this will be better than using the watercolors. I'm also going to do my belt buckle, which is just going to be this rectangle piece right here. This Sharpie has seen better days. I need to move on to a new one, obviously, because it's not as vibrant as it is when it first comes out of the package. So last step is my shoulders here. And then I can use that eraser to clean up anything that I really just am not happy with. And I have a couple erasers here that I'm looking for. So let's see. Usually the eraser is the first thing to go on any pencil for me. So I'm going to go ahead and erase some of these extra lines, kind of pull them out a little bit, clean that up. And while you're making all of your final lines and giving your leprechaun an eraser bath, you can make sure your paintbrush is in your water so it's ready to go. Think about if you have any crayons you want to use. Crayons are a great way to resist watercolor, so you could color in your hat with crayon, and then you could do paint in the background. Now I went ahead and I did paint in my first piece, and I'm probably going to do that the second time too, but I'm not going to make it a rainbow. Like this one was a rainbow, and that was kind of challenging to try to not go in and color and paint on my leprechaun. So if you don't want to do that, or if that seems a little bit more challenging, I would suggest just adding the rainbow colors in the back, the blips of color. Okay, so now you want to go ahead and paint your leprechaun, whatever your favorite colors are. My leprechaun is going to have a beautifully bright orange beard today. I'm going to give him a beautiful green hat. But before I do that, I want to use any of those markers or crayons or any elements before I paint. So instead of crayons today, I'm using some watercolor resistant markers, alcohol marker and Sharpie. So I'm going to go ahead and paint in his little tongue right here. Not paint, color in his tongue right here. Because I'm going to be painting his beard, so I don't want that to be a challenge. I think I'm going to give him two little round cheeks today as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to paint in his face, his skin. If I decide to, I'll let you guys know. And then I have the green. I wanted to put like a shamrock on this, but I don't think I'm going to do that quite yet. I think I want to go ahead and I will do a yellow for the piece that goes around here. The little ribbon around the hat. Again, I'm using these alcohol markers, so if I paint it, it's not going to affect it in any way, shape, or form. There we go. All right, so you use all of those pieces that you want to use, and then you can go ahead and start painting. Like I said, I'm going to use orange for his beard. Now, this is, again, a canvas panel, so this is going to react differently to watercolor than paper would. So mine's probably going to drip a bit, and if it does, it's pretty easy to wipe off. If you're ever painting with acrylics or watercolor, you should always have like a rag or like baby wipes by you, because that will help you clean up and fix any challenges or I guess mistakes you think you made, and then you can go ahead and address that. Just going to paint that in. I like leprechauns. Leprechauns are a fun thing to create. They kind of are reminiscent of painting gnomes, so they have a lot of the same features when you're painting them, so they're kind of fun and easy to paint in my opinion. Alright, so I have my orange beard, I have my shirt and my hat I need to do. I also want to do a skin tone here, so I think I'm going to pick a little bit of paint for a skin tone. I'm going to go ahead and get my green for my shirt, a nice hunter green. So I have the white and the orange and the green, just like in the Irish flag, the flag of Ireland. Well, that's kind of fun. And remember, when you're using watercolor, more color, less water is a darker color. Like you can tell I use darker color right here, more color instead of water because it's darker. Now if I want a lighter color, I want to use more water. But again, we want to be careful when we use too much water. We don't want a swimming pool on our painting that we're creating. I also grabbed some salt today. Mine is a fine crushed salt, so it's almost like sand. So I will probably put that on the background if I do some rainbow elements. I think I'm going to go ahead and paint my hat green today as well. And remember, if you don't have paints, you can do all this with markers, you can do this with crayons, you can do this with colored pencils. You do not have to use what I'm using to make your leprechaun. You can see right there I put too much water on that piece because this is standing straight up and down, right? So if you're ever painting and you put your piece straight up, it's going to drip a little bit. That's okay. So if that happens to you, just get a clean brush, kind of get the water off of it, the color off of it, and just go back and fix it. No big deal. All right, last is going to be my face today. I'm using just a light color here. I think it's kind of ochre color, maybe a light yellow, kind of brown, brownish yellow. I have no idea. Actually, I have no idea what color it is. Have some green in there too. All right, and then what you want to do is if you want to add those rainbow elements, you can come up here and you can paint, like I said, you can paint around your leprechaun. You do not have to have it completely painted up to your elements because you don't want to ruin it. So don't worry about that. Don't overthink it. It doesn't have to be exactly the way like I'm doing it. It can be your own special way of making your leprechaun. So I'm just going to use a little bit of color here and there and not overthink it. Just have fun with it. This should be a little bit more vibrant, so a little bit more color, less water, and then that way you don't run the risk of spilling it into the work you've created with your leprechaun today. So I'm going to do blue. Very little blue left in this palette. The blue will contrast nicely up against that green, kind of make it look super fun. So there you go. So there is your happy leprechaun. You'll notice I have some little drips here. I'm going to go ahead and fix that. Show you really quick how to fix that in my beard. And there you go. Now you have a happy leprechaun ready for St. Patrick's Day. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.